Today I'm out, or at least this morning, I'm out on the Great Sauk Trail. It runs along the Wisconsin River. I'm not sure where else it's going to go. One of the beauties right now, I am here 1st of July, and when you're out here, you can always find plenty of black raspberries along the side of the trail. Stop, grab a bite. Enjoy. So as I explore this state recreation area now, I just came from down there where I got off the bike path right at the corner of Devil's Lake State Park. It reaches right to the corner where that path meets this section of road. I'm right on the edge of private land over here. This is all the state forest on this side. But it's pretty obvious when you're looking around trying to figure out where you are on the map. You can see the sign over here, Rescue Point 20M. That's pretty easy to find on the map. So that told me that I have another trail here that I can go into the park now, and I'm going to do that. All right, just came off of that trail back there, brought me over to 7S. This is my intersection point, which is pretty much an intersection. So, Baraboo bluffs over there, Prairie over that way. I think I'm going to try that way for a little while to the next point. So I hopped off the trail just a little bit because I saw a foundation out here. So up until the 50s, or not 50s, until World War II, this was farmland. People were living out here, farming out here, and I'm pretty sure this is foundations from some sort of barn out here. I would guess that over here in the grove of trees somewhere the house stood. And I can see why people would want to be out here. This is just gorgeous land. Beautiful place to be. Wonderful rolling hills. And it all got taken away in World War II when they needed this land to make ammunition and bombs. And it stayed that way through the Korean War and Vietnam War. And then in the late 90s, the government decided they just didn't need it anymore and had given it back. And a good chunk of it now is owned by the Ho-Chunk Nation over there. And they are restoring it to prairie land. And the rest of this, they've kept the roads that were in here from the munitions plant. And now those are now trails that we can go exploring. They are closed to vehicle traffic. They're open for, I think, hiking, horses, and biking. So I'm going to continue on my way. Now standing on some cement over here in the trees. This is kind of why I think that this is where the house was. Barn over there. Oh, wouldn't that be a fantastic view to have outside your farmhouse? Since these are not traditional trails, you never know quite what you're going to get. I was just on a gravel road that went by that old farmhouse. Now I'm on a old paved road. that certainly probably will never be maintained because it's now just bikes, hiking, and horses. I love how the cracks in the road have now become wildflowers. It's kind of cool. Can change suddenly from the paved to the unpaved. I'm going to sneak over here. I saw something interesting. Here, we've got a couple bunkers. Ooh. Hiding in the hillside. So this place is really kind of a clash of history of the land, where over there the Ho-Chunk Nation is reclaiming its chunk of the land from its long history here. And then we had our little homesteader there from the European settlements. And then we have our strong evidence here of World War II and beyond, when we were making bombs here. And now it's all kind of being going back to nature. Let nature do its job of reclaiming the land. See how nature has overtaken the trails here. So they're starting to disappear in some spots if they're not really maintained or visited that often. And I tell you, I haven't seen anybody, and I'm just before the 4th of July weekend here. I saw people on the bike trail, but the rest of this recreation area, not a soul. So I'd say, but if you're an urban explorer or like finding old things, there's lots of little remnants all dotted along the landscape here of evidence of what was. Even though I am far from an urban area, I am out in what is now a prairie with some odd hunks of concrete in it. So years ago, when all our highways were two-lane highways, like the one sneaking up through the hills over there in the Baraboo bluffs, you would have historical markers. So off over on Highway 12 on the other side of the Ho-Chunk land here now is an old historical marker that's really hard to get to now that Highway 12 is a 4-lane road. So now we've got roadside information signs on bike trails for the people who actually have time to stop and look. So this one tells you about the history of the government reclaiming, taking over the land after World War II, showing information about the munition plant, including, I always found these interesting, these are chutes that if a worker inside suddenly felt unsafe that something was going to blow, everybody would go diving out their chute to get out of the building like that, the quickest evacuation route. And then we have information here about the attempts to, remove many of the buildings and let the land go back to nature and try to restore the prairies. So many of these great little just information signs all along the trail as it changes from river to farming to ammunitions. There is actually a nest in the head. So I parked up at Lockman Kramer VFW post on the edge of Veterans Memorial Park. Now this just on the north side of Sauk City. It is right along the river here. The dam is right over there that creates Lake Wisconsin. And there is a campground on the far end, $25 a night, $35 a night, and you pay at the VFW. The trail I took starting here, or just a little bit south from here in Sauk City, or Sauk Prairie, took me all the way through the Badger ammunition plant, that recreation area, to the very tip of Devil's Lake State Park. So you can camp here and take that whole trip in. Right here, there's a boat ramp down there. There's also a canoe ramp right here. So you can hop in here and paddle out. And there are sandbars out here you could probably sleep on as well. All right, off the side of Highway 12, south of Baraboo and north of the Sauk City and Sauk Prairie, there is the Sauk Prairie Recreational Area. This is the former Badger ammunition plant, and the entrance to it off the highway is kind of nondescript. There is a sign for a museum. That is that building over there, and then ahead is guardhouses, because that's what this place was like. So let's go poke around, because this is where the bike trail I took today wound up. Just the basic museum information. However, I am in July of 2020, and they basically say they will reopen when schools reopen. The entrance is way around the back of the building. It kind of seemed weird, but this is where it's hiding. So across from the museum that is not open, there's a memorial here for the families that had to give up their land in order for the Badger Ordnance Works to be put in place. It's a map, plat map, showing where all the farms were, and a list of the names and the families that gave up their land to help fight World War II. We're kind of on no man's land here on the edge. On the left is Ho-Chunk land, and this is the drive on the way in, and we kind of come in and out of the official state recreation area. And to designate the road, they basically just put up cones, because I don't know if they'll ever maintain it, if they eventually will make this more accessible, do more with this land. I think they're trying to still figure out what the best uses and long-term uses of this is, and keeping some of the history intact, like, you know, some of the old munitions buildings that are still scattered here and there. But again, this is sort of my designation. Turn here. This is now the road you go on. Don't go over there. I stopped at the entrance off of 12 by the museum, and right now I am sitting looking north at the Baraboo bluffs, and I have a map. So currently I believe I am right about here on this corner. This whole chunk, this is 12 running north and south, is Ho-Chunk property now. It has a long ways to go in its restoration process. It still has a lot of buildings, a lot of old roads running through it. If you look on Google satellites, you will see a ton of crisscrossing, just little roads like this one and things all over the place. So it's got a long ways to go before nature takes this back. But you can drive in. So there's the entrance, there's the guardhouse, as well as the museum here, and a little memorial for the people who lost their homes when this all got turned into munitions plant for World War II. So all of the farms in this area were bought out by the government, and they all had to relocate. So there are trails. There is a road that bring you in. This is the Great Sauk State Trail that I rode my bike in on. I started way down in Sauk, came up on this road. By the way, the historical marker is right about there on 12. Rode that trail all the way up, all the way to its end here, where we actually touch Devil's Lake State Park. You could see that they were starting to tear down all the chain link fence that is along here that used to be a barrier fence between these worlds. Now they're trying to make that open between them. The bike trail currently ends here. There is some sort of a path there, but there is a barrier there now. Then I wandered out on this outer perimeter road, and I wandered in through several of these intersections, and then worked my way back out and connected back up here and headed back out of town, or back into town. Somewhere in this area, I did discover those bunkers. There is a long list of points of interest of different kinds of buildings and viewpoints and different things that can be found within this park. So, it's the Sauk Prairie State Recreation Area. It is just south of Devil's Lake State Park. Devil's Lake State Park is actually connects into those bluffs over there. Not that it's really accessible by foot, but it is there.